I feel like I'm about to hit a rewind button, but last week I was talking about Enes Kanter and his comments about Phil Knight at Nike, and calling out Michael Jordan, and calling out LeBron James. And I also pointed out that, maybe up until tonight, Enes Kanter wore nothing but Nike apparel and gear, sneakers, and told you each one of those shoes, including last season. And my point for the whole thing about bringing out this whole argument about what goes on overseas and how things are made is these arguments have been going on for decades now. And unless you're just coming into it, which I find it very hard to believe, because if you're coming into it, I don't know why one would be so loud about it, specifically saying those names. And so Enes Kanter decided to take it up a notch because he'd only played 10 minutes up through last Friday. Suddenly there's been an uptick. He made a kind of little vile threat of like, hey, you continue to sit me, I'm going to expose you. And what do you know? He's been getting into games. He played 16 minutes tonight. Here's my thing with Enes Kanter is I looked it up because I'm a big fan of, you know this, Nick, because I've broken down what your name means. Nicholas, which is the king or the saint of, Le Pan, which is French, and you're French-Canadian, the bread. So you're king of conquering the bread. Hence why you're always working. Well, Enes means personable, sociable. And that's what my whole argument about him was like, look, you're doing more social media than you are doing, I don't know, laps in the gym, rebounding drills, scoring. You're not producing. And you produced pretty well last season. So I said, well, since Enes is a personality and that's what he wants to be, might as well put a P in front of his name, right? Just call him Penis Kanter. That's wrong. No, that's right. Because, and it was mentioned on the broadcast tonight, the national broadcast, like, hey, LeBron isn't the only one that you didn't go after KD, you didn't go after Kyrie, you didn't go after, you just went straight after LeBron. And I wonder if, like, Enes is trying to set himself up for the grift into the personality realm of knowing that your career as a basketball player is over. But if you take this controversial stand, or you take this stand that puts you on one side of this populist divide that is just all over the country right now, you figure, hey, I can build something for myself later on. I would say this to you, P.Enes. Or P.Enes, however you pronounce it, Kanter. Recognize that those who you pander to, you're not one of them. They'll never see you as one of them. Now, they may love your sound bites and they may love what you're saying, but you're not one of them. They'll always point out that you're not one of them. And so why bite the hand that feeds you in the middle of everything? No one's saying that you can't speak up or anything like that, but why now? Why now? As I said last week, I mean, Kentucky, where you were there and you couldn't play because you'd pulled in several $100,000, a few over $100,000 playing professional ball in your home country, and then try to come play college basketball. Come on, that's a no-no, bro. You're out of compliance. Well, you went to Kentucky, and they've been a Nike school ever since the mid-'90s. So P.Enes, Kanter, I get where you're trying to be sociable, as your name means, social. But my question is, then why do you have a TikTok account? I mean, if you're so against all the mistreatment that's going, why do you have a TikTok account? Or as it's better known as Doyun. What you think of TikTok, that's cool, but I won't put it on my phone because let's just face it. I know for where TikTok come from. I don't mess with it. But Enes, you got a TikTok account. Why don't you get on your TikTok account and say those things that you want to say? Or maybe they will shut you down. As I said last week, it just baffles me how, had this been any other player in the league, not even any other player, 80%, 85% of the league who came out and said these different things, the response would be, shut up and dribble. But P. Enes Kanter believes that, hey, I could push the grip further. Do you imagine if another player on the Celtics said, hey, if you don't play me, I'm going to expose you? What would happen to that person? They get cut. Don't give in to terrorists. And look, I'm only using that word because that's the definition of it. And there's a political aspect to it, right? I wouldn't just use a word and not know what it means and not be responsible in that regard. Hence why I learned that the word Enes means sociable. And that's what he's going for. The social grift. When you're sitting on the end of the bench and you know you're not getting in the game, you start talking. And why do you start talking? Because you're looking for your next move. And you still got 16 minutes tonight. I hear so many people say, look, let sports just be sports. Leave the politics over there. Why does it have to come into the game? But P. Enes thinks if he says a couple of buzzwords of topics that are 20-something, 30-something years old, full disclosure, I used to work for the company that he's talking about. These things have been known for years. But now you're using it in social media and you're pushing it and you say you're going to make statements about LeBron when he comes to town. You're a distraction, bro. And once your message is done and it's gone past like a teletype in the old days, they're not going to want you. They don't want you, Enes. Or P. Enes Kanter. Coming up on Late Night with KJ on WEEI, Jive Turkey. Are you ready, Nick LePan, to eat some turkey? Like, we're about to feast on some of the biggest jive turkeys in Boston sports lore. Now, if you're going to have me getting into the 40s and I wasn't living, I'm only doing, and it's good. It's a good list because I have a pretty good memory of the jive turkeys over the years. You ready for it, Nick?
I'm ready.
That's at 11:30, but right now, let's trend.